Hey guys, this is Nick with PhoneArena and you're watching our video review of the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. Just like the name suggests, this is a physically smaller version of the Samsung Galaxy S4 flagship smartphone by Samsung. How smaller is it, you ask? Well, let's put the two side by side. As you can easily see, the Galaxy S4 Mini is noticeably smaller and more portable than the Galaxy S4. That makes it easier to operate with a single hand and easier to carry around, of course. However, the Galaxy S4 Mini is also inferior in terms of hardware specs, at least to the Galaxy S4 flagship. The resolution of the screen is 540 by 960 pixels. There is an 8 megapixel camera on its back and the processor is a dual-core Snapdragon 400. Nevertheless, there is a lot to like about the Galaxy S4 Mini, so join us as we tell you all you need to know about it. The Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini has adopted a lot of design elements straight from the Galaxy S4. That includes the very convenient placement of the physical buttons and the super slim bezel surrounding the screen, but also the choice of build materials and the color options. The only thing missing is a notification light. The Galaxy S4 has a notification light in the upper left-hand corner, while the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini doesn't have one, but that's a design feature that we can live without. The Galaxy S4 Mini is made of glossy plastic and, unsurprisingly, it feels just like touching the Galaxy S4. It's not as premium as holding on to let's say a smartphone made of glass or metal, but it's still good enough. We have to say that we're impressed by how small the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini is, considering that it has a 4.3-inch screen and a pretty big for its class 1900 mAh battery. It fits perfectly into pockets of any sizes and, as you can see, it's very easy to operate with a single hand. We have the typical for Samsung arrangement of physical buttons on the Galaxy S4 Mini. Underneath the screen we have a home key in the middle with a capacitive menu and back keys. On the left side of the device we see the volume rocker and on the right side we have the lock key. All of these buttons are well exposed and well within reach. The 4.3-inch Super AMOLED screen on the Galaxy S4 Mini is okay, but nothing really more than that. It has a resolution of 540 by 960 pixels, which is perfectly acceptable, but a 720p screen would have been a lot more fitting for a smartphone that's supposed to be closely related to the Galaxy S4. Nevertheless, the display gets the job done in pretty much any everyday scenario that we can think of. However, the color reproduction of the screen could have been better. For example, we're now going to enable the professional photo mode, which should produce the most natural results, yet still the colors look a bit exaggerated. Most users won't really be able to tell the difference, but perfectionists might notice this slight color oversaturation. The brightness output of the screen may be average at best, but the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini is still usable outdoors. That's not only because the display reflects only a fraction of the sunlight that hits it, but also because it has a low tendency of collecting fingerprints. We have Android 4.2.2 running out of the box on the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. That's the most recent version of Android to date, offering all of the latest features of the platform, but in addition to that, we have Samsung's TouchWiz user interface and all of its extras. Among them is Group Play, which allows you to share content with other users of Samsung smartphones. There's also Watch On, which uses the built-in infrared blaster of the device to turn it into a remote control for a TV. And last but not least, we have S-Translator, which, just like the name implies, can be used to translate one language to another. Unfortunately, it's a bit disappointing to see that some Galaxy S4 features are absent. For example, there is no air view or air gestures, meaning that one cannot operate the smartphone by waving a hand above the screen. Smart Pose and Smart Scroll are not present either. Here we have the on-screen virtual keyboard on the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. Our thumbs got used to it rather quickly. We find it very convenient for typing on, regardless of whether it's used in portrait or in landscape mode. It comes with word prediction and over 50 input languages to pick from. There is a Snapdragon 400 chip running inside the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini with a dual-core processor running at 1.7 GHz. That's enough processing power to handle even the most demanding tasks which is why the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini is very responsive and easily handles even the most demanding of 3D games. We find it strange, however, that the user interface is sometimes choppy, especially when flicking through home screens loaded with a lot of widgets. As it often happens with Android smartphones, most of the internal storage available on the Galaxy S4 Mini is occupied by system files. That's why in reality, out of the 8 GB that are being advertised, there are only 3.6 GB available to the user, which is barely acceptable. We strongly recommend having a micro SD card with your Galaxy S4 Mini if you intend on storing photos, music or video files onto the device. Here we have the stock web browser on the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. It is fast, responsive and perfectly suitable for casual web browsing. Even heavy web pages are loaded fast and scroll smoothly, but at the same time we aren't really presented with anything extraordinary in terms of features. Just the usual set of tools are present, including incognito mode, the support for multiple windows, and the support for embedded YouTube videos. Now let's move on to the camera interface on the Galaxy S4 Mini. It's pretty straightforward to use, but that doesn't mean it's short on features. It comes with built-in filters and a number of shooting scenes, including HDR, night shots, beauty phase, and burst mode that can take 3 photos each second. In addition, panoramic photos are stitched very well. The main camera on the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini has a resolution of 8 megapixels and an LED flash is present to assist in low light situations. Outdoor photos taken with the Galaxy S4 Mini look okay overall. They aren't anything out of this world, but the images are still very pleasant to look at with neutral color representation and sufficient amount of detail. Digital noise is present indeed, but it's within tolerable levels. Indoor shots are much noisier, of course, so they are of noticeably lower quality. Videos can be captured at 1080p resolution with the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini, and they look very good as long as enough light is present. The sound captured, however, is of average quality at best. Unsurprisingly, the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini comes loaded with the very same music player seen on the Galaxy S4. We find nothing wrong with that, of course, because the app is loaded with features. We have the mandatory lock screen controls and the home screen widget, but in addition to that, there's a ton of equalizer presets, and if that's not enough, the adapt sound feature can adjust the sound of the music to the user's hearing. The stock video player can play back smoothly 1080p video in multiple file formats with exception of QuickTime and DivX. Samsung's pop-up play feature is supported, meaning that videos can be played in a window hovering above the user interface. Phone calls made with the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini are of above average quality. The earpiece in particular sounds nice and clear even when its volume is not bumped up to the maximum. If needed, the volume can be set even higher with the tap of a button, although doing so does take a toll on sound quality. Our voice sounds a bit artificial on the other side of the line, but it's still loud enough to be easily understood. Taking off the back cover of the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini reveals a removable battery with a capacity of 1900 mAh. That's above the average for a mid-range smartphone, so a day of moderate usage is pretty much guaranteed. So in conclusion, the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini is a great mid-range smartphone. It is fast, it is powerful, but at the same time it fits perfectly in the hand and it's easy to carry around in any pocket. Of course, it's not as capable as the Galaxy S4, but when we take its size into account, we would gladly accept the Galaxy S4 Mini just as it is. We don't think that the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini has any major drawbacks, but we wish that the screen had higher resolution. Not that the display chosen by Samsung isn't usable, but we think that something better, for example with a resolution of 720 by 1280, would have been a lot more fitting for a smartphone that has S4 in its title. Also, maybe the low amount of onboard storage is worth noting. However, that's not too big of a deal, because the Galaxy S4 Mini comes with a microSD card for storage expansion. Overall, we think that the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini would be ideal for users who need a great average-sized Android smartphone that has decent hardware specs and lots of features. Also, let's not forget that the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini will come in dual SIM variant as well. Thank you for watching our video review of the Samsung Galaxy S4 Mini. This is Nick. To learn more about this great Android smartphone, just visit our website, phonearena.com.